All right, let's talk a little bit about not getting too caught up in the physique standards set by social media, by influencers. And I think this is an important thing for people to remember. And I will go so far as to say that we even need to think about that in terms of strength. Because I come from the strength world, and it's something I've had pointed out. I am considered to be an elite athlete. I'm considered to be an elite lifter for a master's lifter in the strength world. Like, this is not even disputed. But there'll be people who come through and see what I lift and go, dude, you're weak, or so many guys are so much stronger than you. Okay, let that sink in for a moment. My lifting history for my age brackets, the masters, puts me in the top 1% of competitive lifters. Top percentile. Yet you'll still get that response. So there's your framework for understanding the physique side of it. Isn't it kind of the same? In other words, we see these phenomenal physiques, many of which are not even always real, meaning they don't look like that year round. Okay? They're not training every day shirtless. Right? I document mine, I'm shirtless year round. You guys see how I look. But that'll be a big part of this too. Because by some of those physique standards, guys are like, Blaha's okay, not that good. It's all right. It's below average. Okay. Whew. How many guys in their late 40s like me do you see like this, even at your gym? How rare are they? Like, literally, how rare? I'm not saying they don't exist. Pretty dang rare. They're not at every gym, that's for sure. Okay. But yes, that's the standards that we're judged by online. Okay. That's the standards we're judged by. And when people are judging the influencers and people putting out content like that, how do you think the rest of you stack up? And people have to keep that in perspective. And I'm not saying you shouldn't try to have a phenomenal physique. What I'm saying to people is the dedication, possibly even genetics, that it requires for some of those people to have those physiques. In many cases, their entire life revolves around it. Some of them pretend like they make it look easier than others, and then you find out they use all sorts of substances just to control their appetite, especially the flexible dieter ones. The guys, I work in this chunk. And then they start running, you find out what all they take just to keep their appetite under control so that they can stay that lean. Okay? That's a big factor. Not even talking about PEDs, we're talking about they take nicotine and stuff just so they control their appetite to stay that lean. All right? And these are people who it's their full-time job, and then they need all those things to do it. All right? So what happens when everyone else is judging themselves by that standard? And again, I'm not telling you can't shoot for that. I'm not telling you can't do it or that it's impossible. I'm not telling you not to strive for it. But the problem is people need to understand some of those physiques that you're seeing, your entire life will have to revolve around it. And what if you're not making a living off of it? What if you're not making a living off of it? Those people are making a living. Some of them are making 6-figure, 7-figure incomes off of all of it. So their entire livelihood, and it's usually a good one, depends on it, and that includes whatever assistance they can afford to help them do it. Okay? But they're making a living. So for the rest of you, maybe I suggest having a little more compassion for yourself. Maybe judge yourself to a lower standard. And I don't mean we should set standards low. I'm not telling people, again, not to strive for excellence. I mean, I tell people for strength stuff, and then some people are like, wow, that's insane. But then you go to the strength world, they're like, it's really not, that's mediocre. Okay? There's your context. I tell guys like, having a 315 bench, 405 squat, 500 deadlift, being able to crank out 10, 15 pull-ups, I don't think that's unreasonable standards for middle-aged guys. Okay? People go, that's insane. But it's not. Because we're not at that standard yet of what people are judging by the physique stuff. Okay, from a strength perspective, that's just considered really good. That's what you would expect from someone who has really put in 10, 12 years towards getting really strong. They're jacked. They're at a decent body composition. That's kind of what you would expect. Because if you're in your 40s, you've probably been doing this a while. You're 40, 45, 50. Okay, see where we're going with this? You probably put in a lot of time under the barbell, old man strength. Right? I call it my dad bod strength standard. Keeping in mind, you come on social media and there's guys squatting and deadlifting 700, 800 pounds who have six packs. You know, dudes benching 500 pounds, 550. Dudes do weighted pull-ups with 200 pounds for a couple reps. Okay, 200 pounds hanging around their waist. All right, but that's insane. So why do we judge our physiques then by that same standard? And again, I push high standards. I think you should all have well-balanced physiques. I don't think you should skip calves. You should all have calves. You should all have biceps. You should all have abs. You should be lean. You should be fit. But by that same token, you also have to understand some of the influencers you're seeing, they have to use a lot of stuff to maintain where they are. And their lives are a mess. They have literally had to develop eating disorders, other stuff to be where they are. And I'm not even knocking that. Look, we're talking about a competitive environment, whether they're competing in some sort of bodybuilding competition, competing at the world level in a strength sport, competing for $1 million in income on social media. I'm not knocking it. Saying, but understand where they are when they are doing it. Understand how much of their life in some competitive environment, and that competitive environment can be financial, revolves around that. They're not doing it just for fun. All right? So for the people who they're like, man, I just want to look really good. Don't get too obsessed with that standard on the internet. Be careful of it being your benchmark. If you're not competing for that social media money, you're not competing on a stage, you're not competing on the platform. Now, if you're competing, anything goes. For the hobbyist, you don't need to ruin your life trying to do it. Right? When there's no payout, you can cut yourself a little bit of slack. Don't try to live by a standard that you know your lifestyle and goals are not really going to get you to. And don't feel bad when you don't get there. Any more than if you work really hard at a job and you make decent, good money, you're above average, bust your butt for it, then you see someone who makes 20 times what you do. You don't beat yourself up over it. Same thing. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.